There's a particular kind of tired that chronic people pleasers know well. It's not the tiredness of having done a lot, it's the tiredness of having managed a lot, of monitoring emotional atmospheres in every room you enter, of editing yourself before you speak, of carrying the low hum of anxiety that comes with never quite knowing whether the people around you are pleased with you and whether you've done enough. This is emotional labor in its most invisible form, and it is exhausting in a way that's hard to name, because from the outside, and often from the inside, it can look like conscientiousness, or helpfulness, or just being a considerate person. In this video, we're going to look at what the actual research shows about what chronic people-pleasing does to your mental health, to your body, and to the quality of your relationships. Because the cost is real, it is cumulative, and most people-pleasers have been paying it for so long, they've forgotten there was ever a different way. The relationship between people-pleasing and anxiety is almost universal in clinical presentations. Research by Dr. Susan Albers and colleagues consistently identifies chronic people-pleasing as both a symptom and a maintenance factor of anxiety disorders, particularly social anxiety and generalized anxiety disorder. The mechanism is straightforward. Your sense of safety is contingent on the approval of others. Since you cannot control other people's reactions, your threat system remains perpetually activated. You are scanning, monitoring, adjusting, always, and your nervous system never fully gets to rest. Over time, this chronic activation contributes to a flattening of mood, reduced capacity for joy, and in many cases, clinical depression. Alongside anxiety, identity erosion is perhaps the most insidious mental health cost. When you have spent years suppressing your authentic reactions, preferences, and needs, you lose access to them. People pleasers often report feeling hollow, uncertain of what they actually think or feel, or as though they are performing a role rather than living a life. This is not a dramatic crisis, it is a slow, quiet disappearance. The body keeps the score, as Bessel van der Kolk's landmark research documents. The chronic suppression involved in people-pleasing has measurable physical consequences that are often entirely missed because they're attributed to other causes. Chronic activation of the stress response, which is what people-pleasing maintains, elevates cortisol over extended periods. This is associated with disrupted sleep, impaired immune function, digestive problems, and increased inflammatory markers. Research also shows that emotional suppression, the consistent override of authentic emotional responses, is correlated with higher rates of cardiovascular problems and chronic pain conditions. There is also the physical symptomology that many people-pleasers experience in the moment of conflict or assertiveness: the tight chest, the flushed face, the shaking hands, the voice that goes quiet or high-pitched. These are the body's alarm responses, firing in the face of what the nervous system has categorized as threat. The body is not wrong to respond. It is responding to information it was given long ago. But that information is out of date. Here is perhaps the most painful irony of people-pleasing. It is a strategy designed to protect and preserve relationships, and it slowly destroys them. Genuine intimacy requires two real people. When one person in a relationship is consistently suppressing their authentic reactions, adjusting their opinions, swallowing their needs, and performing agreeableness, the other person is, in effect, in a relationship with a performance. They may enjoy the ease of it. They may take it for granted. But at some level, most people sense the inauthenticity, and connection requires truth to grow. Dr. Harriet Lerner's research on relationships documents how chronic accommodation breeds resentment in the accommodating person, which then leaks out sideways as passive aggression emotional withdrawal, or eventually an eruption that bewilders the other party. The people pleaser has been fine, fine, always fine, and then suddenly, inexplicably, is not. The most connected relationships in the research literature are characterized by both parties being able to express needs, disagree, disappoint each other occasionally, and remain in relationship. That requires the capacity to be a real person. People-pleasing prevents this on a structural level. Subscribe to this channel, we cover this every week. Resentment is the emotion that people-pleasers most reliably generate and most reliably deny. Because if you're someone who prides themselves on being giving and accommodating, admitting resentment feels like a character failure. It feels ungrateful. It feels ungenerous. But resentment is simply what happens when needs go unmet over time. It is information, not a flaw. And suppressed resentment does not disappear. It migrates. It appears as irritability at things that seem unrelated, as fatigue that rest doesn't fix, as a gradual emotional withdrawal from the people you've been working hardest to please. In many cases, the person who eventually ends a relationship, quits a job, or creates a sudden dramatic rupture is a people pleaser who reached capacity. From the outside it looks sudden. From the inside it had been building for years, in small, unacknowledged increments. The tragedy is that much of it was preventable if the small, honest conversations had been possible before the resentment reached a tipping point. There's a question worth sitting with. Would you treat a person you love the way you treat yourself? If a close friend came to you and said, "I've been ignoring my own needs for years to make everyone else comfortable. I keep saying yes when I mean no. I feel hollow and exhausted, and I don't quite know who I am anymore." What would you say to them? You wouldn't say, "You should try harder to be more selfless." You would say, "Your needs matter. You matter. This is not sustainable and it is not fair to you." Self-compassion research, led by Dr. Kristin Neff, consistently shows that treating yourself with the same basic care and regard you would extend to someone you love is not only possible, it is learnable. And it is one of the most robust predictors of psychological well-being in the literature. You were never the problem. The pattern that formed around you was, and that pattern is yours to update. A few things that help. First, reframe the guilt. When you feel guilty for saying no or asserting yourself, name it. This is conditioned guilt, not evidence that I've done something wrong. Ask, did I cause actual harm? Usually the answer is no. Someone was mildly inconvenienced or disappointed. That is survivable for both of you. Second, audit your yeses. For 1 week before you agree to anything, rate it 1 to 10. How much do I actually want to do this? Anything under a 6 gets a slower response. You don't have to say no yet. Just slow down the automatic yes. Third, experiment with micro-assertions. These are small, low-stakes acts of expressing your actual preferences. Choose the restaurant, decline the optional meeting, send the shorter email. Each micro-assertion is a rep. You are building a muscle. And finally, get support if you need it. A therapist trained in ACT, schema therapy, or trauma-informed CBT can help you work through the roots of this pattern in a way that a YouTube video, however well-intentioned, cannot fully replicate. You deserve that investment. Recovery from chronic people-pleasing is not fast. It is not linear. And it involves sitting with discomfort that at first feels worse than the people-pleasing did. Because at least the people-pleasing was familiar. But here is what the research consistently shows. People who do this work, who gradually learn to act on their own values, to tolerate the discomfort of occasional disapproval, to give from genuine desire rather than fear, report profound changes in their relationships, their sense of identity, their physical health, and their overall well-being. You are not doing this to become someone who doesn't care. You are doing this to become someone who cares genuinely, including about yourself. The version of you that gives freely, says no when it's true, and shows up as a real person in every relationship, that version is not far away. It has been here all along, waiting under the performance. This is Healing Through Thoughts, People-Pleasing, Series 6. Subscribe for daily content this week and share this with someone who needed to hear it today. Take good care.